Hey everyone, this is Mr. Molo with the 5.3 puzzle time. What did the bowling pin say to the bowling ball? So we're going to do 3 questions on here, kind of one of each. So like we're going to do question number 1 where the x's are the same. Question number 6 where we could multiply to make the x's the same. And question 11 where we're going to have to end up multiplying both because we can't make 3 times something go into 8. So let's look at number 1. So this one is set up for us already. Pretty nice. So I have x and then a negative x. So I'm going to need to add those to get it to eliminate. So remember, we want something to end up with being a 0x or a 0y. So first step we need to do is figure out if we're adding or subtracting. So in this case, we would be adding. So x plus negative x gives me 0. 7y plus y gives me 8y. And then negative 5 plus a negative 3 gives me a negative 8. So if I divide both sides by 8 then, I figure out that y equals a negative 1. Then remember we can go back and plug that in. I'm going to use the top one. So x plus 7y equals negative 5. You can use the bottom one if you'd like. So x plus 7y, we just figured out y was negative 1. So I have x plus a negative 7 equals a negative 5. So that means I'm going to add negative 7 to both sides, or add 7 to both sides, rather. So negative 5 plus 7 is 2. So I figure out that x is 2 and y is 1. All right, so now if we fast forward to number 6. All right, so number 6 might look a little different. 1, because it has fractions, and 2, because 1/3 and negative x aren't the same, and y and negative 2y aren't the same, so I'm going to need to multiply something. So I have 2 choices here. I can multiply this 1/3 x by something to get it to cross out with the 1x here, or I can multiply y by something to get it to cross out with the 2y. Some of you might be thinking it might be easier to just multiply the top by 2, and then you get 2y and negative 2y, but then we still end up with a fraction here. So I don't like that fraction, so I'm going to get rid of it right away. So if I multiply 3 by 1/3, I end up with 1x. So I'm going to do that. So I get 1x. 3 times y is 3y. And it equals 6. So I multiplied everything on the top by 3. I didn't change anything on the bottom. So let me rewrite that. So now I have a 1x and a negative 1x. So again, we need to add here to get that to eliminate. So those cancel. That just leaves me with y. And that leaves me with a negative... Oops, I forgot to multiply this. 6 times 3 is 18. So that leaves me with a positive 9. So I figure out y is 9. So remember, make sure you don't make Mr. Molo's mistake. Everything gets multiplied by 3. 3 times 1/3, 1x. 3 times y, 3y. 3 times 6 is 18. I just rewrote the 6 and I figured out my mistake real fast. All right, so now that I figured out y is 9, I'm going to plug that in, let's say the bottom one. I don't want to mess with fractions. So I have negative x minus 2y equals negative 9. So negative x minus 2y, I know y is 9, so I'm going to put a 9 in there. Equals negative 9, lots of 9s here. So 2 times 9 is 18. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides since it's a negative 18. So I get negative x equals positive 9, and then divide by negative 1 to get rid of that negative x. So I get x equals a negative 9. All right, and then the last one we could see here, I have an 8x and a 3x, or a 9y and a 13y. Well, none of those actually seem even remotely nice for how I can multiply. It's not like I could just multiply one by like 2 or something, or even it's not like 8 can go into 16, but like 3 can't go into 16, or even like 9 can go into 18, but 13 can't go into 18. So we're going to have to think a little more about our least common multiple here to figure it out. So I'm going to end up making my x's the same, just because 9 and 13, I can't even think of what the next multiple is, but I can think of 8 and 3, and that gives you 24. So I'm going to multiply this whole top one by 3, so that I make it a 24x. And a negative 27y, and a negative 6. I didn't forget to multiply the number this time. There we go. And then I multiply the whole bottom by 8. So now I end up with a negative 24x. So now my x's are the same. And then 8 times 13 is 104. And then 8 times 20 is 160. So again, I have a 24 and a negative 24. So I'm going to add. So 24 and negative 24 eliminate. Negative 27 and 104 give me 77. And 6 and 160 give me, negative 6 and 160 give me 154. Divide both of those by 77. And we figure out all those big numbers and we get y equals 2. All right, and then we go back and plug in. Let's do that bottom equation. So I have negative 3x plus 13y equals 20. We just figured out that y was 2. So instead of 13y, I'm going to put in 13 times 2. So negative 3x plus 26 equals 20. And then remember, we subtract 26 from each side because it's a plus 26. So negative 3x equals negative 6. And then it's multiplying negative 3 times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. So I end up with negative 6 divided by negative 3 equals positive 2. So we end up with y equals positive 2 and x equals positive 2 for this one. And so the answer for our joke here, what did the bowling pin say to the bowling ball? They said, please spare us.